Today on the Tearsheet Podcast.
The new issuing solution we are building is very much driven again by the fact that the existing solutions out there that they were working with are very limited because lots of it is relatively old technology, which has a big limiting factor on what these merchants can do. So the main driver for us is to see how can we help these merchants that we're already working with. How can we help them with this issuing project make their life easier?
Welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast. I'm Zack Miller. Card issuance is enjoying a lot of fintech light shone on it as technology and use cases catch up to the modern economy. From Marqeta to Stripe and now Adyen, payment firms are moving quickly in this space. Roelant Prins, Chief Commercial Officer at Adyen, joins us on the podcast to talk about his firm's new card issuing service, where the idea came from, and what type of customer demand they're seeing for it. We discuss Adyen's global approach and drill down into what he describes as unified commerce. Roelant Prins is my guest today on the Tearsheet Podcast.
My name is Roelant Prins. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Adyen, and that means I look after the commercial activities of the company globally. So all the activities we have around getting new customers on board, grow the business, see what new markets, new industries we can expand into.
And before we talk about Adyen itself, you've been with the firm quite some time, right?
Yeah, I've been with the company for almost 13 years right now. Yeah,
Amazing.
Pretty much from the beginning. Yeah.
What does that trajectory look like? How's that ride been?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic ride. Of course, 13 years ago you had no idea where this would lead to. And you always work with we're building for the long term as a company with all the decisions we make. But in terms of your personal trajectory in a company like this, you just look at the next 1-2 years and see how things evolve. And then, I'd never imagined 13 years and a ride like this. But the cool thing about it is it remains super interesting because there's never a routine. There's everything. Every year there's different challenges, new things we're doing, and that keeps it super interesting to continue to work on this with the rest of the team.
How has the vision evolved, I guess, over that 13-year period?
Some things haven't changed that much. Interestingly enough, I think we've always worked at it. There's a few things that are quite key to how we like to work, and they have been like that from the beginning, and that hasn't changed. And they are, on the one hand, we are very, very linked to helping our merchants grow their business. That's really what's driving us. So that's always driven how we develop our product, which new features we build is always directly linked to what our current problems our customers face, and that's what we try to solve. So we never, build something with a vision of this is what the world will look like in 10 years. So now we'll build the next currency. No, we'd rather have discussions with merchants. What problems are they facing right now in growing their business? And then we look at it like, hey, how can we use technology to try and fix those problems for them? And that's been our approach from day one. And it very much still is today. So of course, lots of things change and evolve, but some of those core principles have never really changed.
So was globalization, I know you guys continue to roll out new geographies. Was that a vision from the beginning to take this and go global?
Yeah, well, if you want to build a payments company, especially the way our ambition was to really build it for the long run and make a large, impactful company, then scale and volumes are really, really important. We're originated in the Netherlands originally. This is a country with 17 million people. It's pretty hard to build a local business there and have lots of scale. So, it's typical for us in the Netherlands that you think internationally if you build a business by default. So I think our first customer was actually a German merchant. They had a European need, so we started out building a pan-European service from day one, and quite soon after that we were going into other places like US, Brazil, etc. So we always had a big interest to build an international global company because we like it. We see that's where the market and the merchant needs were going, and that makes it a lot of fun.
And I know unified commerce is a term you guys use internally. Could you define that for our listeners and talk about, I guess, philosophy around that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So from early on, we've been working not only with large tech and e-com companies, but we've also been working a lot for retail businesses across the world. And originally, we started out with helping them with their online payment solutions. But as we got working with them more and more, they were asking us, "Can you help us in store? You're fixing lots of our problems online, and it's really helpful." But we have such a fragmented infrastructure and old solution in our physical stores. Can you please help us out with that? That would be really helpful. Because it turned out that lots of these retail merchants, especially the more internationally focused ones, they were operating easily 20, 30, 40 different solutions across their different markets. And of course, a real big hassle. Um, if you then combine that with the fact that consumer behavior has changed so significantly over the past 5 to 10 years, moving from the merchant really being in control of where and how to shop for which products, it's turned around completely. And of course, nowadays, as we all know, the shoppers in control. They figure out and they control when to buy, what to buy, and it's much more on the shopper terms. Now, in order for retailers to really address that, to help and build a relationship with those type of consumers that show that type of new behavior, you need a much different way to interact with them. You want to give them the same experience online as you do in store. You want to make it really easy if they buy something online to return it in the store, get a quick, easy refund. You want to be able to ship goods from various locations towards people's home if necessary, all these things. And that turns out that payments play quite a key role there, because having a unified, a single payment infrastructure for both your online as well as your in-store environment makes all these things so much more easy to accomplish. That's been driving a lot of the retail activity we have, and it's something we're investing a lot in, because there's big demand as all these companies go through a digital transformation process.
Well, maybe that's a good segue into the new card issuing service that you guys have launched. Can you describe what that is and sort of what the impetus was behind it, where the demand came from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the demand is similar to what I expressed earlier. That and we very much look at what is it that our merchants asking us to help them with, and over the years we've been working more and more for not only retail or large tech companies, but also more and more for platforms and marketplaces. You see lots of food delivery companies. We've been working a lot in the travel space with various companies, and um, they all have a need for the new issuing solution we are building is very much driven again by the fact that the existing solutions out there that they were working with are very limited, because lots of it is relatively old technology, which
Hmm.
has a big limiting factor on what these merchants can do. So the main driver for us is to see how can we help these merchants that we're already working with, how can we help them with this issuing project, make their life easier. And issuing is specific, has various different use cases nowadays. So it's, on the one hand, for example, it's a great tool for lots of the platform economy to enable the sellers, or let's say drivers, or um, whatever you call it, people on these platforms, to enable them with their activities. So let's say, as an example, food delivery companies, they typically have people that go and fetch. If I order food for a specific restaurant, they might go there, go and grab it, pay for it, and deliver it to my home. Now, the pay for it part, either you give them cash, or you have to figure out an account with the underlying restaurant or supermarket, um, or you can issue a card to these people who can then go and fetch them the goods. You issue the specific amount only valid for that retailer for a certain window, and they can use and grab the goods. So you can make funds available in a very defined specific window. And that's super helpful for these companies in managing their cash flow, managing risk, and it's a solution that that's fantastic for them, which just wasn't available with with more legacy issuing products out there. And these are specific cases we're now building the issuing product for, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But it's a great example of how you can use modern technology to make these issuing services much more fitting for what these merchants are looking for. And um, it follows a bit the approach we've taken on how we build our processing and acquiring solution over the years. Um, because originally we started out as a payment gateway, working with lots of the different processors and acquiring banks at the back end who process payments on behalf of the merchants with Visa, MasterCard, and the other schemes. And what we figured out there was that quite quickly that these systems were pretty old and therefore very limiting in what they could do. So if we wanted to make changes, for example, in how we submit certain data points into the Visa MasterCard networks, these systems couldn't do it, or they had to build a big business case. It was going to be 3 months work without knowing what the outcome would be, good or bad, where we felt like, hey, yeah, you can do that so much differently with new technology. So seeing all those limiting factors, we thought at some point, let's just try and build a direct integration with Visa, MasterCard, get our own licenses, and take control of this technology. And that opened up such a wealth of possibilities for us to optimize and significantly improved, the automation of processes for our merchants, but also significantly improved authorization rates. So the number of successful card transactions going through the platform, which of course means, many more happy customers. So it was an area where we could really optimize and significantly improve the value chain on the card acceptance side. Yeah, we're now doing the same on the card issuing side, because again, on card issuing, lots of old systems, built by third parties, used by certain banks that have no control over the technology, so you cannot change it. And yeah, we're here in a world that's changing so quickly with all these cards that are now issued electronically. They're finding no longer their place into a physical wallet. They're all ending up in a virtual place, i.e., phones, etc. So you need to have lots more flexibility when you build and maintain and run an issuing platform. Yeah, we think we can do it really, really well. And then especially if you combine the payment acceptance side on the processing, the acquiring, and the settlement of the funds, and you combine that with the issuing, yeah, those two are of course quite complementary. And
Sure.
and the approach we take is we're not looking at like, oh, we're going to launch this Adyen card, we're going to build all the relationships with lots of consumers out there. We very much position ourselves as a company working for our merchants, helping our merchants grow their business, and hence the issuing product will be very much a way to enable our merchants issue cards for them to optimize the processes they're running. And so that's very much how we look at it. It's a way to help our merchants deal with their customers.
So, where are you, I guess, in the rollout of the issuing? It sounds like you're working on building some custom solutions at this point. Like, where are you in that? And what are the next steps as you roll that out?
Yeah, we have a few. Typically what we do within Adyen, we say we have the Adyen formula which very much drives how we behave internally, but also our philosophy about how we build and develop our product. And within the Adyen formula, we say on the one hand, we innovate and build to benefit all merchants, not just one. And we say we launch fast and iterate. So that applies very much to the issuing project. So we're working with some specific pilot customers who have a very clear need, i.e. in this food and shopping delivery space. So we're building it right now. That's close to that's close to launching. And what we'll do is launch fast and iterate. So we have a few cases. We'll launch with them, make sure it runs really well. We build it in a way that works really well for them, but always in a way that it's generic, that other people can use it later on. And then we take it step by step to other merchants. So that's how we like to do that.
Great. I want to shift gears a little bit. We did talk about globalization and your ability to go global from an early stage in the company's growth. Specifically for the U.S. market, what role does the U.S. play in sort of the global portfolio of geographies, I guess?
Yeah, it's the US is a highly strategic area for us as a company. It's always been in the sense that, of course, from from early days, we've been working closely with lots of the Silicon Valley based tech companies to help them expand across the world. So most of the consumer focused companies out there work with us for reaching people across the world. Over the past years, we've been heavily investing also in the solution for the domestic market in the US. So we have a large team out in the various places, specifically New York and San Francisco. It's over 125 people right now. Really not only focused on helping people internationally, but also really focused on helping people in the US. We're seeing more and more companies that are US domestic only that start to now to work with us. So
Mm.
some we announced earlier in the year that Subway decided to really roll out with Adyen across the US, which is for us a big moment in the sense that, hey, we, typically your reputation sometimes follows you, and people still have the idea like, oh, Adyen, that's online global business for online businesses. Whereas Subway, well, let's have a look at it. It's largely, of course, still in-store payments. It's a franchisee model. It's many locations throughout the US. It's US only, point of sale. Of course, there's the digital transformation happening also in that part of in that specific industry. But yeah, that's all US domestic point of sale business, which is really nice because it really signals like, yeah, we're here. We have a fantastic local solution, and you'll see more of that.
Interesting. And Subway, I think, is the largest QSR in the US.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Wow. Okay. Congrats on that land. And I guess in the remaining time we have, I'd love to hear from Roland, like sort of what your plans are. Like, no one knows what the long term at this point looks like, but at least from product, from a rollout perspective, like what are you guys thinking, over the next 9 to 12 months? Like what are your biggest plans as Chief Commercial Officer?
Yeah, currently, of course, very weird times, very unpredictable in terms of what's going to happen in the next few months. But yeah, we always take a long-term view on how we build the company, and the themes for us remain in line with how they have been. So we continue to invest in globalization. It means that we're working in Japan, we're working in India. Those are fairly new markets for us that we see lots of demand from our merchants to help them. So we have teams there working on the solution. Um, Similarly, we talk about unified commerce a lot. So retail is one area, but QSR, hospitality, restaurant business is also something we're very much looking at expanding. And I think we have a fantastic solution. Hopefully, if we get throughout this crisis, we can help these merchants run their businesses more effectively. I think there'll be lots of need for that. Um, and the other area where we're investing a lot, which is also related to the issuing product, is around platforms and marketplaces. So eBay is known to implement our solution throughout the world and in the US. They very much like the fact that with our platform they can really have lots of flexibility on how they build their payment experience for their sellers and their buyers, and we're operating behind that to make it all work. Um, and we're seeing a large growth of new initiatives on the platforms and marketplaces side, not only on the online piece, like the eBay type models in terms of online marketplaces, but we're also seeing more and more companies that are running a cloud instance to help specific verticals, specific industries. So whether it's services for spas, for fitness clubs, for dentists, for any other industry that has specific needs, shared needs, we're seeing there are more and more of these specific cloud solutions coming up that then combine things like accounting, appointment setting, customer service, customer management, but also payments in a single cloud-based solution. And the payments run, of course, online, but also need to run in stores. And our solution, we're investing quite a bit in our platform solution to enable these platforms to provide a service to their underlying customers. And again, we'll operate at the back end. They'll do all the customer service, and we'll be running the payment infrastructure for that. So it's another area we're investing quite a bit to because we see lots of growth potential.
That's really the theme of embedded finance, and one that we've been covering a lot over the past year and a half. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exciting times there. Roelant, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.